Hey guys, welcome to this podcast episode. I am so excited because I am actually here with a long-term client of mine. Her name is Stephanie, and you're now. And we have this four-phase approach that we take at Embody Her, and the purpose of these four phases is to help our clients not only achieve the results that they desire on losing the body fat, building muscle, and like creating a sustainable lifestyle and sustainable results, but more importantly, like unlearning toxic diet culture beliefs around, weight loss and, tracking and whatever type of like misconceptions they might have. So healing their relationship with food, healing their relationship with their body, but also getting the results that they need. So I'm excited for you guys to hear from a woman who's, was exactly in your position, might be, depending on who's listening, and to share her story. So Stephanie, do you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself, where you're from, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, hello everyone. I am super excited to be here. And honestly, I would never thought that I'd be here on a podcast talking about my health, which is crazy. But yeah, I'm from Indiana. I've been working with Lexi for like how she said, um, about a year, I think, right?
Yeah.
And I work in the schools. I'm a speech language pathologist. Sometimes that can get a little crazy, but I love my job and working with Lexi truly, I'm not kidding, has changed my life. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, guys. So, being, a speech pathologist and working like in the education field as well, like that stuff gets busy, right? So if you're the type of person listening to this and one of your barriers when it comes to reaching your goals is like busy work, this is really going to be relatable for you because if Stephanie can do it, you can do it. And we'll talk about kind of like the mindset stuff that you went through as well with like that busy schedule and kind of dealing with that. But without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So, I kind of want to ask you first, Steph, like, let's kind of just take it all the way back to when we had those initial conversations and we were trying to see if it was a good fit. Like, I want you to bring it back even before we even met. What was your like what was your biggest like misconceptions when it came to reaching your goals and like you know trying to reach your goals? Like what would you say were like the biggest mistakes that you made or the biggest misconceptions that held you back?
Yeah, so, ooh, that was, feels like forever ago.
Right.
um, Wow. Honestly, I feel like it's very typical. Gotta do all the cardio, gotta lose weight, like don't eat so many carbs. Those typical things that you hear, which is not right. Like I still eat my carbs. I love my carbs.
That baby.
um, but I also another thing was the huge like you just gotta go 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 like be perfect all the time and like work out every single day like that was my mindset before.
Mm,
Um,
nice. So your mindset was just like this base, and we had to work through this mindset shift a lot, is like you don't have to be operating at 100% optimized perfection all the time in order to get the results that you want, right? So for you, what do you feel like was the biggest thing that helped you through our conversations and just like the mental shifts when it came to breaking out mentally from that all or nothing, hyper overachiever, perfectionistic mindset to a more grounded state?
oh, so yeah, like you said, I was huge on like perfectionism, like give it your all or whatever, go big or go home type of person. And that is just draining. So draining. But through our conversations, like my mindset has shifted not just like at the gym, but just like in other parts of my life, with
Mhm.
my friendships, with even with my partner, my work at school, and that mindset honestly was just being flexible. Um,
Mm.
and staying grounded is okay, what is my why? And just giving myself grace. That it's okay to not always be at 100. You know, some days you're going to have your 60%, and guess what? It's okay, but you know, you gave it your best, and that's okay. I had a really hard time with that.
Yeah.
I
Tell me a
really,
little bit more about that. Yeah.
yeah. And I think, you know, it just goes back to like our childhood. I think, you know, we talked about this.
Right.
We both come from immigrant parents, and it was the mindset of like work, 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 work. And it's like, all right, but your body at one point is going to realize, like, oh my gosh, like I need a break. Um, and so just listening to my body more. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah,
Yeah.
it's just been crazy to see all
Yeah.
the growth and everywhere.
Oh yeah. And this is like this was like a weekly thing, you know what I mean? Like, oh, like I feel like and it would be so funny, guys, because let's keep it real. Stephanie is consistent. Like, let's just say that. There's no such thing as like perfection, but the results that you've gotten, the transformation, like you show up. And there's a big difference between understanding when mentally you need to slow down, you need to give your body and mind rest, and then there's a difference between just like, I don't feel like it, so I'm not going to go, because like giving myself grace. Like there's two completely different things. And I think that's kind of like the biggest, not hurdle, but like when you come from that perfectionistic go, go, go mindset, it's like, okay, well, how do I find that balance of giving myself grace and being kind to myself, but I still want to be consistent? Like I still want to hit the things and show up for myself. And it's not necessarily about like, hey, it's okay to, you know, to just do whatever. And it's about show up. Like if you can hit all your things, great. But if there's mentally things that are taking away from that, that are causing you to just feel a little bit more drained, and you end up, you know, having to, you know, cut out your workout short because of whatever that day. And, you know, we can't beat ourselves up. We just have to focus on solutions going forward. So I would love to hear from you, Steph, like going a little bit more into the mindset shifts in the beginning as well, right? Because for those who don't know, we have a 4-phase approach that we put all of our clients through to help them achieve the full mind, body, soul transformation, lose fat, build muscle, like all of those things. And phase 1 is our build to burn phase. Okay, so phase 1 can last around 4 to 6 months, depending on the person. And, you know, like if you were to look at Stephanie's results now, you know, she's like 20, 25 pounds down from like her starting point, inches down, but she's maintained muscle. The mindset shifts are crazy, but we didn't just jump into that, right? And we couldn't. So we spent literally 6 months increasing her intake slowly. She was eating around 2,400 calories, like at one point, and like building muscle. And she still was able to achieve some body recomposition. But I want to hear from you, Stephanie, like, what was your, because a lot of people can feel like, you know, they might feel like, okay, let's do it. Like, I'm ready for that. But what was your initial thought process when we were like, hey, like, we're not going to jump right into a cut. Like, we're not going to see the scale go down a lot. We're actually going to do the opposite and focus on maintaining and healing your relationship with food and eating more. Like, tell me a little bit more about like that thought process and how it shifted over time.
Yeah, at first I was like, what? What do you mean? Oh my God, like, why not? But obviously, you gave me, I mean, I trust you. Absolutely, I trust you. I'm like, yes, girl. Like, you, I mean, obviously, you'd always tell us, like, it is your journey. But I trust this girl so much because, you know, her work speaks for itself. But yeah, at first, I was like, oh my God, so I'm just like not gonna lose 10 pounds right away? What do you mean? Um, but it makes sense. um, you know, it just it took a little. Actually, it's still till this day. It's just a hard pill to swallow. Swallow. Excuse me. Your progress is going to take time. You just you just gotta take it.
Yep.
it it is what it is, and it's gonna take time. And so at first I was like a little uncomfortable, like, what do you mean I'm gonna eat all these carbs? And um, but honestly, at the end, I was like, oh my gosh, like I love this. It was amazing to see, like, even um, how I felt. I would always feel like drained throughout the day with work and everything, but with the carbs and like going to work out and just like doing everything that we had to do, um, yeah, it just I don't feel so exhausted anymore, if that makes sense. Background, I do have like hypothyroidism, so that was a little bit like, I mean, it affects a lot of it, but even with that, like, I feel great.
Right. Right. And it's so normal to feel that way, right? And I love what you said about it takes time. Like if you're going to take a sustainable route, and everybody's different, right? But majority of the time, if you want to build that solid foundation and build muscle, first of all, muscle takes time, first off. And then two, like if we want to lose the amount of body fat that you want and like maintain muscle and really create that shape, we it takes time. But time flies. Also, like how has it been a year almost already since we've been working together?
Right.
Right? And we're about to finish up your cut and like enter a reverse and like really get back into like that abundance of food and like, training hard. I mean, you're still training hard, but like it's just different when you have like more carbs in your muscles, and it just makes such a difference. And did you ever, I'm curious, with your hypothyroidism, did you ever feel like it was a crutch, not a crutch, but like a death sentence to ever achieving your goals at any point in time?
I did, yeah. It actually affects your weight and everything. Like even
Yeah.
when did we start? Okay, so I got diagnosed in 2020, and um, the type that I have, like you gain weight just like for no reason. And I think, that was during my master's, and um, I got my first job and whatever, and I just continued to feel like I felt fine, but I was like, there's something missing. I don't like the way that I'm feeling. I have everything, like my job, like my wonderful husband, and like my beautiful home. And I was like, something's still like why am I like what's wrong? And it felt like to me like, oh, I'm never gonna lose weight because of like my hypothyroidism, and like I'm not saying I was using an excuse, but what to me it was harder,
Right.
um, just because of everything that you hear as well. But I mean, I'm losing weight, so which is
You look great.
thank you. So yeah, I did at one point.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because I talk to a lot of women who, they might have hypothyroidism or even PCOS, which you don't have. But when you're diagnosed with certain things, these things do make it harder. But on top of that, like you said, people are telling you that, yeah, it's just like, and they make it sound like a death sentence, right? And it's like, wow, like, am I ever going to be able to lose weight? Like, can I eat carbs, right? Like, especially with that, like, I'm sure, carbs is like the one thing that people think that you absolutely need to cut down on and whatever. And you've been able to do just that. And like, every single time I send you your photos from when you first started to like now, it's just crazy. Like, absolutely
I was
insane.
looking back at them like when I was like, oh my god.
You forget, like you really
Yeah.
forget. That's insane, but you earned it, right? Like you really did show up for yourself. Like you did the work, you got educated, you asked questions, you never missed a check-in. I don't think you've ever missed a check-in, to be honest. You really haven't, like honestly.
No.
Um, and I think that's like a big thing as well. Like if you guys are like looking into one-on-one coaching, it's not just like gonna solve all your problems just because you sign up, right? Like you have to, it's a two-way street. You got to check in. You're struggling with something, communicate. You don't know how to track this in, communicate. And a lot of times, as women, especially because we do work with like a lot of overachievers or just like self sacrificing women, it can be really easy to like suffer in silence. and just feel like you should have it all figured out. You don't want to bother anybody or feel like a nuisance. Did you ever feel that way? I mean, we have like a pretty strong relationship, and I feel like that's important too. But what would be your advice to anybody who definitely falls into that category of like just withdrawing when they're struggling or suffering in silence or, just feeling like they're annoying their coach? Like, what would be your advice?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the beginning, I did feel that way, and I was like, "I'm so sorry, Lexi, I'm so sorry." And then you even told me, you're like, "No, like, do not say sorry. Like, this is my job. Like, I'm here to help you." And that kind of just, I was like, "Well, yeah, of course. Like, why? Yeah, I mean, I think as women, we're always saying, 'Oh, sorry, 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 sorry,'
Right.
and that's a whole nother conversation. But I you're not, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to feel like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, or maybe this didn't feel right. Because if you're not learning, then how are you going to make progress?
Right.
Uh, that's the way I see it. Maybe
Right.
you could be doing something completely wrong. Not completely wrong, but maybe, you're not doing it the way it should be. And you're like, well, why am I not making progress? And if you're not saying anything, well, how is your coach going to know? She's not with you 24/7. You have to communicate with her, and you're so easy to communicate with, so it just makes it even better.
Yes. No, we try our best, right? Like to make it like a safe space. And it really just comes down to the individual, I think, like, if they're gonna continue because to show up and ask the questions, and the most courageous thing you can do is ask for help and to be like, I'm not supposed to have it all figured out. And again, like I'm not doing this, we're not doing this for charity, guys. Like you guys are investing in yourself. Like we're here to support you and serve you, and that's what we want to do. Like please message us. I think, it's just more of like overcoming that, again, perfectionistic mindset, or feeling like you said, women always being like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Like, no, like, ask, you're good. But that is just like you said, it's a whole different conversation because there's people who you could tell them all day, every day, it's okay, and they still struggle. Um, that's great advice. So, what would you say have been, I want to dive a little bit deeper into your relationship with food and especially carbs and how that evolved over time. What would you say were the biggest um what would you say were the biggest contributors to you shifting your relationship with eating more and carbs? Like, obviously education, was it just evidence for yourself? Like, what would you say were like the main things that helped you really make that shift and feel like I can eat these foods and it's okay?
Yeah, I think it was just both, like education and just like the results.
Right.
um, it, I think also for me personally, this is just for me. We grew up around carbs.
Right.
We're I'm Mexican. We love our arroz, our tortillas and things like that. So it wasn't super hard for me to just accept it. At one point, I think, like I said in the beginning, it was a little like taboo, like what? Well,
Mm,
I can eat
taboo.
this.
Yeah.
Um, but like I said, this is just for me. I know some people
Yeah.
there that do really struggle with this, and I have, I know some people that do struggle with it. And when I was telling them, they're like, "What?" And to me, I was like, "Yes, it's okay, like to eat
They
it."
look at you like
So
you're sabotaging them.
yeah, and like I just want to be like, I just want to like hug them, like just eat the dang thing. It's okay.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it was just like I said, education and the results that I was seeing.
Right.
And you always like, provide like the research behind it and everything. So,
Right.
um, that always adds a plus. There's literally research.
Right. It's literally just science, right? Like there's carbs or energy. That's it. I think a lot of time when people think about carbs, they think about like they just it's a programming, right? Like we're just programmed to think that if you want to lose weight, if you want to get the body you want, you should limit your carb intake, and not true. You know what I mean? Like it's just really not. And I think that's the power of also learning about your macros is like, excuse me, is understanding like, okay, well, what does that look like numerically? Like how much carbs, like, and when you really learn, when you first start tracking your macros and you're like, I have 50 grams of carbs left, like you get to the place where you go from being like, I feel like I need to restrict, or should I be eating this much? Like it kind of feels like it's too much, to then how am I gonna fill in the rest of these carbs? Right? Like, how do I get in more carbs? How do I get in more fats? Like, how do I get this in? Right. And so then it creates this actual abundance mindset with food where you're like, now I got to find out how to actually hit this and eat more. Where in the latter, it's like, oh, I went way too over. You may feel like you're trying to eat super low calories and it's kind of hard to stay under, right? And you feel like, oh, so I want to ask you, like, obviously, like, how did learning how to track your macros support you in your relationship with food and getting educated?
Um, it actually, wow, like it helped me a lot. I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, like, how do you track your macros? Like, why are you restricting yourself? And I'm like, no, homegirl, like, I'm actually eating good. Like, it's
Yeah.
fine. Um, it's more of an awareness and helping me see, okay, am I hitting my goals? But I would say more just like an awareness
Right.
because especially at the beginning of your journey, and I'm still like a year in, like, and I still like use it. Um, but it helps out, especially with the goals that I have. Um, I mean, yeah, like I never saw it as like a nuance. Like
Hmm.
I never saw it as like a, oh my God, I have to do this. Like I actually am like, okay, I'm gonna track this. Let me see not what I can and can't eat, but like how much do I have left of this?
Hmm.
Helps me eat more like nutritious meals. Like okay, I have this protein in here and these carbs, but I'm like, oh wait, like where are like my micronutrients, like my greens. Um, so it's just kind of like
Love
a,
it.
I don't know, like maybe like a little graph or something. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like an awareness, right? And the fact you're talking about micronutrients and like, I love it. Like, hello.
I know, who am I? Oh my gosh.
Right? And that's what we do at Embody Her, guys, is we really help you guys create empowerment around your nutrition through education. And if we can just shift our perspective around these words that kind of might signal restriction, right? Like tracking or weighing. It's really not about restriction, at least over here. It's about creating awareness because most of y'all are not eating enough protein, carbs, or fats. Or what I'm seeing nowadays is women eating so much protein and like their carb and fat intake is so low. Like trying to eat like super low calorie and like high protein. And it's like protein matters, but carbs matter, fats matter. And it's education that helps you overcome, like you said, the taboo kind of mystery with carbs and fats and whatever connotations come up for you when it comes to tracking and weighing and all of that. It's not about restriction, it's about eating enough for your body to have the fuel it needs to lose fat, build muscle, and like metabolize those foods, right? And a lot of times people try to do it on their own, and if you this is just what I've seen. If you try to do it on your own, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to put yourself on macros that are actually going to fuel your body. Like, you're probably going to put yourself on like the basic 1500, 1600, max 1700 calories. Like, no woman in their right mind is going to go into my fitness pal and put 2000 calories. Like, they're just not. And so if you are listening to this and you've tried it in the past, let me ask you, have you ever tried to actually eat at your estimated maintenance? Probably not. And not your BMR, like your actual maintenance calories, which are most likely 1900 and up. Like, you probably haven't. And that's maybe why it felt restrictive, because you're literally trying to eat super low calories. So over here, when we educate you guys around your macros, it's about empowerment through education and shifting your perspective so you can become aware around, oh, like even for me, like I still track my, I don't, you don't have to track for the rest of your life, right? Like Stephanie, right now, like the first 6 months of us working together, we were tracking her macros so that way she was ensuring that she was eating 2,400, calories and energy and the protein, carbs, and fats to build muscle and upregulate her metabolism. Because of that phase, we were able to lose a majority of her fat around 1,700, 1,750 calories. Like, that is cake. You know what I mean? That's still 175 grams of carbs. Like that's literally chilling. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that you're not hungry and things like that, but
Right.
like it's better than you being at like 1400, you know what I mean? Like whatever we might have put before. So with that being said, right, it's really just about that empowerment through education and creating that awareness. So the last thing I kind of want to ask you, Steph, is what advice would you give to anyone who is curious about um, one-on-one coaching or, really learning about their macros and, kind of taking this next step on themselves, but they're a little bit hesitant. Maybe they're doubtful. Maybe they're doubting themselves. Maybe they're afraid about finances. Like, what would be your advice to that woman?
Yeah. So I would just, girl, just do it.
Just do it like
Uh,
Nike.
right? No, but like for real, we're always like so hesitant, like, oh, well, I'm gonna wait because of this and this and that. And it's like, okay, well, what's the next, like, let's say you get to what you said you're gonna wait for. And then you're always like pushing it back and pushing it back. And I'm telling you because I was like that. Like, I literally was like that. Um, but I just kind of hit my breaking point. I was like, no, like, something needs to change. Um, and hey, just I would just try it out, and if you don't end up liking it, that's okay, which I doubt because you will. um, but like at least you tried it. At least you went a route and you tried it. And I will say this, like I said in the beginning, this journey has helped me not just like in my physique, like mentally, in just so many different aspects of my life. Um, like I try to just take the moment in, embrace the journey. And before I would always like think about the future. Okay, I gotta get this done and this done and this done. It's like okay, like yes, that's good, but like just staying present was also one of my huge like mindset mindset shifts. um and if you're always pushing it back, when are you going to start? Like we're already halfway through the year. um so I would just just do it. Like
Right.
Nike.
Do it like Nike.
Right.
Right? I love that. And a lot of the women that do come to us, they honestly kind of are at not that breaking point, but they're kind of at the point where it's like, I've literally tried a million times on my own. It's the same pattern. I've tried so many different diets. I've tried, you know, maybe like kind of like, little cheap apps and influencer programs or whatever. And those things have their time and place. But a lot of the times, guys, we just need that. We need that support. We need that guidance. We need that accountability on a deeper level. And, um, you know, Stephanie has been able to overcome so many barriers of all or nothing thinking, perfectionism, hypothyroidism, a crazy busy schedule. And she's been able to get to where she wants to be. And we're continuing to build on that and improve on that. So if she can do it, you can too. But you have to believe in yourself and take that leap and take that. You got to take risks in life. You know what I mean? You can't just live in this little bubble of safety and expect that you're going to get the results and the progress that you want long term. So I would say that that pretty much wraps it up, Stephanie. Thank you so much for spending the time with me and kind of sharing a little bit more about your story, your mindset shifts, and kind of like the things that have helped you get to where you want to be. And is there anything else you want to just say before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, and whatever journey you're in right now, really just truly embrace it. There's days where sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, like, when am I going to get to that place? But just remember where you were a couple months ago,
Right.
and reground yourself because you got this.
Yeah.
And I honestly could have not done it without Lexi, so that's my girl right there.
Like girl. Yes. And also like just kind of piggybacking off on that, right? Like there's always going to be a next level, you know? And so it's so important to stay grounded, like Stephanie said, stay present and take time to reflect on where you were because right now even Stephanie, like you've made amazing progress in this phase and then it's like okay, next thing, now I want to build my glutes more, and like there's always going to be a next level even in business, right? Like you hit a new goal, okay, you really embrace it and then it's like okay, what's the next thing? And that's totally normal of our human experience. Like it's normal to have new desires and new goals, but don't forget to reflect on your progress and the mental shifts that you've grown and where you were a year ago or a few months ago and how you would have handled things. And yeah, so if you guys want to learn more, you guys can always, you go probably follow me on Instagram already, but you guys can check us out and Embody Her in the description below. I know Stephanie, you have a private page, so if you ever want to connect to her, you could DM me and I can connect you with her. If I don't know, whatever. And we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.